Just when we thought Robert's teary eyes at the Kennedy Center Honors 2012 was his last connection to the all-time FM radio classic, there was shocking news for all Led Zeppelin fans on the third week of October 2023. It was the man himself, Robert Anthony Plant, at age 75, performing Stairway to Heaven at a charity gig. Robert was back at the mighty Zeppelin anthem, proving there is always time to change the road you're on. With his personal love and hate relationship with this tune, it made us wonder, and the forest didn't echo with laughter but joy and celebration. Now, what was the motivation to do this? Why now? It doesn't matter if he hit the notes or not, this is a powerful intention that only rock and roll icons like Robert Plant can deliver. His performance represents a statement of mortality, a principle of moments colliding with the fate of nations in the current state of affairs we live in. A song for the silent generation and baby boomers who went for their dreams. A song that all these decades later inspires other generations to hold on to their dreams. Like the James Bond movie Never Say Never Again, Robert's reluctance to playing this number since his solo career began seems to have come full circle. The October 2023 rendition sounds like peace, forgiveness, and acceptance of Father Time. This is a video essay on Robert Plant's historic beef with Stairway to Heaven. Yes, he revisited the song 16 years after Led Zeppelin's O2 Arena reunion gig, but the roots of Plant's issues with the song run deep. I hope you enjoyed this retrospective plus all the details behind a historic performance in a world that seems like a never-ending cycle of falling stairwells into hell. Led Zeppelin has a total record of 193 performances for Stairway to Heaven, and just let me be clear, it's one of my top 10 Zeppelin songs ever. I don't care how overplayed it is, the studio version sums up the very essence of the band. Released in November 1971, it was a milestone for the band, becoming one of those concert staples audience expected to hear, thus a permanent fixture on their setlists. Every show from 1971 until 1975 had Robert willing to sing the iconic lyrics that he still doesn't know what they mean. Something he has been quite outspoken in the media, including a recent Dan Rather interview. Quote, "It's not about being my favorite, it belongs to a particular time. This particular time came to an end by May 1975 at Earl's Court, with Led Zeppelin conquering every angle of the rock and roll business. What happened next, all the way to 1980, changed Robert Plant's sentiments towards the group's Stairway to Heaven, or The Abyss. Robert and his family were severely injured in a car accident in Greece in August 1975. Recovery was long, and isolation in a wheelchair away from the stairwells made him question the music lifestyle and his limits as a human being. Doctors said he may never walk again. His 1973 version was brought back on film for the October 1976 release of the band's now quintessential movie. It elevated Stairway to Heaven into the collective unconscious with the phrase, "Do you remember laughter?" forever ingrained in rock and roll lingo. Fans now had a visual and official soundtrack reference they'd expect the band to replicate forever. Led Zeppelin returned to the stage a year and 10 months later, on April 1st, 1977. This long North American tour was a celebration of sorts. Robert was both happy and careful to be on the stage again. He was back on his feet, but the insanity of touring the States as the biggest band in the world was a pendulum of chance and excess over their heads. Their Zeppelin brand and corporation was now bigger than themselves. Looking at an average setlist from the tour, we can see the silent yet growing issue with Stairway. The hard-rocking pieces were there as well as the blues, audacious progressive rock, an intimate and vulnerable acoustic set, 10 Years Gone, wild instrumental solos, and right in the middle of the whole thing, Stairway to Heaven. What hurt the song the most was the enormous expectations on it to the point of ritualistic alienation as the ultimate escape. This is what I call the Bohemian Rhapsody effect. By 1984, it was like a perfect stranger on Queen's setlists. It's interesting how many of these 70s anthems needed a break from scrutiny. I can think of the Rolling Stones' Angie as another example. They stopped playing this after 1976, with a brief appearance in 1982 and a real comeback in 1989. Stairway to Heaven morphed into an out-of-touch, wishful thinking affair when drugs, shady characters, and greed darkened the skies of the Led Zeppelin universe. Carrick Plant's passing at age 5 in late July 1977 changed everything, Stairway included. Grief, desolation, and despair made Robert Plant consider leaving the rock and roll business altogether. Add in Page, Jones, and Peter Grant not attending his son's funeral, the wound remained open for decades. If you watch my Into the Outdoor series, you know Led Zeppelin's short comeback in 1979 feels like a reunion, with John Bonham the only bandmate who was there for his friend and convinced Robert of getting back in the game. Of all the songs from their 1979 shows in Copenhagen and Nebworth, Stairway to Heaven seems like the emotional scapegoat for Plant. He now hated the song, and one of Led Zeppelin's most precious idealistic musical children. Robert's grieving over Carrick could be channeled through hard rock, blues, the Rain Song, and the new songs from an album he recorded looking into the future. How could he sing Stairway to Heaven and pretend to buy into the fairy tale it brings along? This was the only track where the lyrics meant nothing by 1979, thus here's where Plant's animosity towards the song begins.
And a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forests will echo with laughter.
Adding the fact that his already changing voice battled a really nasty flu in 1975 and maniac touring in 1977. By 79, he just couldn't reach the high notes at the end of Stairway and other tunes from the set. It was a tough spot to be in, with the audience thrilled to see their heroes, expecting to deliver. Tour Over Europe 1980 featured Led Zeppelin's last 14 shows on this planet. As we know, their setlist was stripped down from long instrumentals and 70s excess. The song selection is quite interesting, a concise and compact mix of hopes for a new decade that exorcised the demons and restored both physical and mental health for a couple of bandmates. Stairway to Heaven seems like an excuse for Jimmy so he could use his double neck guitar. Look at the soft numbers for 1980. The Rain Song and All My Love speak of maturity, depth, and lyrical meaning. Stairway to Heaven was a perpetual thing of youth, almost a typecast and curse for Robert Plant. With Stories of Into the Outdoors Carousel Alhambra being considered for the North American dates that year, you'd think the synthesizer epic could have replaced the worn and torn 8-minute epic from 1971, at least for one tour. Stairway to Heaven 1980 was sometimes played at a faster tempo, as if Robert wanted to get the job done, going through the motions. The daydreaming 70s mood of the song was no longer relevant for Robert Plant. It was a direct reference to a decade that cost him dearly.
So lady, sure, all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.
September 25th, 1980 changed the course of the ship forever. Led Zeppelin and Stairway, Denied. Enter the Outdoor as an album followed a similar fate to Stairway to Heaven, with All My Love, a song Robert said, quote, wanted to be remembered for, to later change his mind in opposite directions years later. His solo career slowly took off through a series of brave records and refusing to play Zeppelin material at his concerts. By the time 1985 came along, playing Live Aid not only helped the world, but his own career. You can check my episode on Live Aid 1985 for a deep dive and context on the reunion. 3 Zeppelin numbers shook the world on July 13th, 1985, and of course, Jimmy had to use his double neck guitar. They could have done The Song Remains the Same, but Stairway to Heaven was the song the world wanted. Robert pulled off incredible chemistry with Page. He seemed to channel the new chapter vibrations of his life, making a name for himself, away from the Zeppelin shadow. Robert Plant was a superstar by the time Atlantic's 40th anniversary took place in 1988. He even played a killer set with his own band before joining Zeppelin with Jason Bonham. You can watch my Page vs. Plant episode on how this reunion happened. Robert started playing Zeppelin tracks at his shows by 1988, so you'd think playing Stairway to Heaven would be a joyous ride. It wasn't. Plant looked tired. It was 1 a.m. by the time Zeppelin took the stage. Emotionally speaking, he was not present. It was another day at the office, and the wounds were exposed for the sake of show business. Robert didn't need the reunion. He had his own thing going. The way he looks at the horizon at the end is poetry and stillness in motion. So many thoughts in the back of his mind at Madison Square Garden, where his former band made history. Fast forward 1994, Page and Plant got back together, and toxic expectations grew by the hour. They played an acoustic version of Stairway to Heaven for a local Japanese TV show, a strange version of 2 business partners willing to revisit the past at the gates of millions of reunion dollars for the next 4 years. As much as he tried to play the part in general, Stairway to Heaven was the one thing he couldn't pretend. He was able to have a laugh at comedians poking fun of Stairway that same year at a TV show.
There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to...
Oh, it makes us wonder. There's a lady who knows all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.
2007. The constant factor in Plant coming back to Stairway past 1980 is how he never stopped moving as an artist, with changing lineups and studio restlessness. Zeppelin rehearsals showed Robert made his best effort to let go of any hard feelings against Stairway, and do it for their longtime friend, Ahmet Ertegun. Downtuning the song from the key of A to G added comfort to enjoy the track without straining his voice. With his solo career just months away from releasing one of his best-selling albums since 1988, revisiting Led Zeppelin songs was a small sacrifice. Plant knew all this hard work was for one show and one show only. Stairway to Heaven at the O2 Arena was glorious, magnificent. It was everything we wanted it to be. Robert Plant was quoted saying he went to a pub after the show and drank away his demons. The inevitable reunion tour discussions came and Plant shut them down immediately to go raise sand and money with Alison Krauss. Getting back to his former band was a serious case of trauma bonding. He did the right thing and moved on. 2012, the year celebration day was finally released. You can check my making of series on this one. There's a reason it took 5 years to complete. The Zeppelin buzz was in the press and culminated with the Kennedy Center honors. Robert's reactions went viral on social media. He witnessed Stairway to Heaven in awe. He observed the musical creation with his heart and memories. His solo career kept going with every album better than the last. His greatest artistic fear was to be stuck in the 70s. Yes, he kept playing Zeppelin covers at his shows, but there's nothing wrong with that. At least he kept touring and recording, unlike somebody else. Robert won't go back to emotions that scarred his life forever. You see, the problem is that the media and casual fans think of Led Zeppelin as the 1973, 1975, and 1977 imagery, which seems to be the only narrative that gets any discussion going. It's only a small percentage that thinks of Zeppelin with beards, with no dragon suits, nor massive stage setups. Ironically, the band conditions in which Stairway to Heaven was recorded. Robert Plant probably feels this and has done his best to keep the fans close, but remind them of what is and what should never be.
Hey, thank you so much. What is that? What is that? What? You think we've come this far to hear that? What is that? What is that?
September 2023. Duran Duran's Andy Taylor announced a charity concert put together at Soho Farm Club, a hotel just a 2-hour drive from London. The article said he would join Robert Plant among others. Having battled prostate cancer himself, Andy Taylor was determined to raise cancer awareness. This brings us to Saturday, October 21st. First things first, Robert Plant actually played a 4-track setlist that evening, which definitely adds necessary context. The group's lineup is quite relevant in the post-Led Zeppelin story. Why? Well, we have Guy Pratt on bass, the same Guy Pratt who played with Coverdale and Page, as well as Page and Michael Lee in 1999. This was the first time both Pratt and Plant shared the stage. Pratt made a post on his Instagram page saying that his checkbox was complete. He'd now play with both Page and Plant. Next is Andy Taylor himself. He performed 2 shows at Live Aid 1985 with both the Power Station and Duran Duran, the very same stage where Led Zeppelin's first reunion happened. So in a way, you got Andy and Robert sharing the same space, but this time in close proximity. Last but not least, one of the guitar players was Kenwyn House, former member of English rock band Reef. They were on the Glastonbury 1995 bill, including Page and Plant. Kenwyn wore a killer shirt that was clearly inspired by Jimmy's 1977 White Dragon suit. As a Zeppelin fan, I gotta give him props for that. I don't think that was a coincidence at all. Now on to the performance. The band began with Zeppelin's Thank You, a track Robert hadn't played since February 2019. A very good rendition and a perfect warm-up number. It was a solid choice indeed. Next they played Black Dog in a very interesting arrangement that extended the bars and accents into a sort of displaced rhythm riff. Robert had fun here, teasing the audience with his tricks, including a hilarious push-push reference back to the 70s.
Oh, sorry. For I found out, oh, in any key, what people mean by down, down.
So after this much fun and letting loose, Stairway to Heaven was next. When doing my research for this episode, it was a relief to know they played 2 songs before Stairway. It made more sense than just hearing about him going back to the song after 16 years. Yes, I know what people say, Robert's vocals were somewhat shaky on this one, but hey, you can't blame him. It's a very emotional track to revisit. In my opinion, he did a great job. It's a credible performance. What strikes me about it though is that Robert seems to have found answers to many questions and also drew a serious question into the future that Father Time brings closer. Not once did he fool around here or force himself to sing. He doesn't look like a man doing this for his solo career, but a moment filled with sincerity and teamwork. He seems humbled by years passing by, with the Stairway beef forgotten. The band delivered a rocking version of the song, Kudos to Ken Winehouse for a great guitar solo. I can't imagine the stress of playing this next to Robert Plant himself. Such an intimate setting, so many meanings, so little time. Robert's words after it's over struck me as an underlying text going on. I don't really know what it is, but it's touching and human.
And the future of it all. And also, so it's not just that, I offer it up to Led Zeppelin. Wherever they are.
The set ended with Donovan's Season of the Witch, another track Robert hadn't played since 2019, and a frequent number during his Prairie of Brian days. And so, with a closing jam of Buffalo Springfield's For What It's Worth, the show was over, and it was worth. Robert Plant contributing to cancer awareness high in the stairways of his life was surprising. Ken Winehouse was quoted saying, "Someone bid a huge amount of money for him to sing Stairway. There is a good circle of karma around it that raised a six-figure sum for the charity. That one song. Robert Plant did the right thing. We wish him well and good health. Led Zeppelin fans can't thank you enough for this. A concert milestone for years to come. Whoever bought the Stairway to charity turned the show to gold." Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.